ne budi glup, ne budi glup, ne budi glup, brate, ne budi glup.
Dobro večer, ladies and gentlemen. This is to be a plan. So let's get straight into it. I'm sure everybody's aware of what's been going on in Ferguson. The shooting of Mike Brown, killing of Zama Begich, both. Devastating things to happen. And but let me go to the start and what is the meat of this video, right? But I'm gonna before I get to that, let me start with a positive. I saw pictures of people in Sarajevo last week with signs in solidarity with Ferguson. And I thought, this is a beautiful thing. This is a beautiful thing. The Bosnian community is one of the communities that have had one of the most horrific things happen to them, if we're talking about it specifically in modern times, right? I mean, there's a lot of communities who've gone through pain and hardship, but if we're talking about modern times, you got, obviously there's the Rwanda incidents and pockets of stuff that's happened in Africa, which nothing new there, but definitely in Europe. If there's any European community that can relate to pain and hardship, and specifically that's happened in modern times, the Bosnian community gets it. So when I saw, you know, in solidarity with Ferguson, I thought, this is a beautiful thing. And then, you know, Zamir got killed, and I was like, oh man. And then it started to trickle down. It started to become, and then there was another Bosnian lady attacked, and then it started to become this kind of race war. I don't want to say it's a race war yet, but it started to feel like that's where we're heading. And yeah, I took to Twitter, and I took to Twitter when I started seeing this happen, and I was telling my American Bosnian friends specifically, like, don't get baited into this thing that they're trying to play us against each other. Don't get baited into this game that they're trying to play on us, the media and certain outlets and certain voices, right? And then I saw this video from Mary Omni, and I'm talking like this because this is the way that she talks. She shouts and she screams, and she puts loads of reverb in her voice because she's Mary Omni. She's loud and proud. She's wrong but strong. Mary Omni from the house of King David. This woman is on drugs. This woman is on drugs, right? It's like, so yeah, I saw this video and she's spouting the most despicable, disgusting messages of hate I've heard in a long while, and it was embarrassing as a black person to hear the stuff that she's talking about, and just the illogic of what she's saying, right? The illogic of what she's saying. And basically the meat of this video is that I want to give Mary Omni of the house of King David some facts that she needs to know about Bosnia and Bosnians. But here's one thing, before I get into the meat of this, here's one more thing I want to say. I've seen a lot of the responses to her saying stuff like, shut up nigger, and porch monkeys, and if you're one of these people who's responding to her like that, man, I'm gonna put you in the same, I'm not gonna put you in the same box as her, because I understand the rage and it's very reactionary, but your responses are just as dumb as her video. You can't fight ignorance with more ignorance, right? So, yeah. But, so, because I want to really just dissect the nonsense that she's talking about, let's go through some of the shit that she said. I put the audio on my BlackBerry, right? So, let's get into it.
This is Mary Omni from the House of King David.
Mary Omni, House of King David.
2014. This is a Republic notice. The title of this Republic notice is called Ferguson, Bosnian Death, Immigrant Warning. Ferguson, Bosnian Death, Immigrant Warning.
Saying it twice makes
now,
it
this
more.
video is go
important, I guess.
over some
Whatever.
law.
Some
The
law.
that you don't hear in the media, the law that you don't hear in television, the law that you don't hear in the de facto bar association or the criminal bar association or the criminal justice system. Notice the words criminal.
You noticed it.
Criminal justice system. They're telling you what they are. Criminal justice system. They don't say justice system. Criminal justice system. And they got a whole bunch of TV shows, the war against the living God.
Yeah, because everything that's on TV is true. But yeah, this is very
Ferguson,
informative.
Bosnian death, immigrant warning is this. You are on these black young men 14th birthrights and land rights. If there's an accident that occurs, you are considered the invader and the embezzler and thief. You came to build a dream off of the 14th constitutional nation of supremacy.
All right, let me stop this bullshit right here. So let's get the first thing out of the window, right? Bosnians came to America to steal the land of the 14th constitutional. I'm not even going to get into that constitutional bullshit. Bosnians came to America because they were escaping a war. I mean, we're talking about the Pacific instance, obviously there was Bosnians in America from before Yugoslavia. There was obviously people who traveled outside, whatever. But in the Pacific context, she's talking about the surge of immigrants that came into America, the Bosnian immigrants that came in the 90s, right? Which is I'm assuming what she's talking about has to be. Darling, there was a war. They didn't come to steal the land, and this constitutional bullshit that she's talking about is nonsense. But we're gonna get into that. But let's hear a bit more. Let's hear a bit more.
These biblical inheritors.
Biblical inheritors.
By the way of the 14th Amendment, the 1 through 15th Amendments of Supreme Constitutional Land Contract. These so-called young black males that the media calls thugs, and in corporate doctrines, public call thugs, are the Republic. They are the Republic. They are the Republic. Contract. The Bosnian immigrant was invaded.
Okay. Koi Kurat. The Bosnian immigrant was invading. Well, I just stated already that the Bosnian immigrant wasn't invading. And let me throw some more facts in your dumb ass, right? You're so concerned about the Bosnian immigrant that was invading, right? So I already told you, right? There was a war going on. Bosnia. Not just Bosnia, but the most, like, the ex-Yugoslavia region in general, but Bosnia was the worst affected and it had its own pocket of the war, right? So here's another thing. You're so concerned about this part of this American Constitution, which I doubt is even true, that you're spouting off about. This is why it's important to know facts, and it's important to know truths. And it's important to know when one is manipulating a fact and when one is simply stating the truth. But anyway, that's slightly diverting from what I'm trying to say here. America, anybody who knows anything, like, we know that America had a big part to play in shit that happened in former Yugoslavia. They had America, not just America, UK, you know, the usual suspects, right? So you're so concerned about the Bosnian immigrant that was coming to invade. But your beautiful America that you seem to be defending here was part of the reason why Bosnians came. In the first place, America was cleaning up its own mess. Creteno jeden glupi. But let's hear a little bit more. Let's hear a little bit more.
The Bosnian immigrant
I'm gonna forward this
joined
over.
the globalists.
Joined
And
the
they
globalists.
came to America for an American dream at the expense of black infants, babies, at the expense of the Mike Brown, at the expense of blacks' housing, at the expense of blacks' education, at the expense of blacks' lifespan, at the expense of blacks' home ownership, at the expense of black-owned businesses, at the expense of black relationships, at the expense of black home ownership, at the expense of blacks' home ownership, at the expense of blacks' home.
Let me cut you off there. At the expense of blacks. Alright, so I just talked about facts and truths, right? And how you can manipulate facts to make your agenda seem more relevant. I'm not going to give you the stats of this, because loads of people always do that, yeah, for all these stats percentages, and say whatever it is that they want to say to fit their little narrative. But I'm going to give you a general truth that anybody with any common sense who can read and do a little bit of research knows is a general truth, right? When Bosnians came to St. Louis specifically, St. Louis was in a decline. St. Louis was in an economic decline. It's a fact, and the truth in this case, that the Bosnian immigrants that you're really crying about right now helped raise the community, business-wise, specifically. That's a fact. Those facts are out there for one that wants to bother to read. And it depends on how people feel, that it's arguably, and most people would agree with this, they brought a sense of community, because obviously once economic growth starts coming, you know, people start feeling a little bit better. And listen, as somebody who's been in Bosnia a lot, I know what the Bosnian hospitality is like. Balkan hospitality is a beautiful thing in general. So it's definitely a general truth that there was a lot of positivity that Bosnians brought to St. Louis. That's a given. So let's hear a little bit more of this bullshit. Right.
Home ownership at the black in 18 make up the republic. The black males in brain development are the republic and are the state citizens of the republic. They are very rarely given a republic defender because the public don't want them to have any defenses. So they're very rarely given a constitutional republic defense. They are of the republic for which it stands sealed, signed, sealed, and delivered as 1 through 15 inheritors of constitutional land called constitutional citizens. They're the only constitutional citizens, the black Americans. Not the immigrant blacks, but the black Americans. Those that were here before the U.S. Corporation of 1871.
Let me cut this bullshit off. So first of all, she's going to lead on to start talking about, well, she's already started about blacks being the only native, you know, only constitutional people. Darling, it's important to know history. And I've kind of made that obvious already, but let me just state that as a fact. It's important to know history. First of all, now you're playing this privileged immigrant card. America, as you know it today, was built on immigration. You stupid idiot. You moronic individual. So there is very few people who are American that can actually say they are the true. Well, you can say you're constitutional because that's what's on paper, right? Okay, fine. But there's very few Americans that can say they are native, as she's going to go on to say. And this stupid idea of I'm talking about the black Americans, not the immigrant black. blacks. As if there would be any black people in America if it wasn't for some type of immigration. Obviously, like, listen, your ancestors were put in America and it wasn't even their choice. So the Cherokees, or what people like to call Red Indians, right? They're the rightful owners of America. Okay, so this privileged immigrant card, this shows the ignorance of people like this Mary Omni character. Mary Omni. It shows the ignorance, right? But man, let's go on to the biggest point she's gonna make, which the point that really got me vexed. She's gonna go into it now.
Section of the Constitution, in which this Bosnian immigrant felt so privileged to walk around and be around and invade because the public and Satan told him to go ahead and to dream an American dream and ignore the reality of the constitutional black citizen, all this suffering and his 400 years of slavery, which is constitutionalized as the human capital investment, and that's why they're the only constitutional citizens. They were in the majority, that made it okay, because the majority mean the robbing and the thieving is so widely accepted that it's okay, that I'm excused from being a robber and a thief. But yet I'm in your home, and I'm depriving you of all the stuff that I said, and I'm causing you to be part of a trampled population. And so, am I the blame when you don't belong here? You're from a different longitude and latitude. I think it's called Bosnia.
Hold on, let me just address this thing quickly. So, it gets to, like, more than halfway through the video, and she goes, I think you're from Bosnia. So you've been talking about this group of people and you don't actually know 100% where they're from or what's the name of the place that they're from. Your longitude and longitude, I think it's the land of Bosnia. You think? Oh, joj. Mučko jedno đubre. Let's continue.
And contract here. So when you're here, is it an accident occurrence because you in a place where you don't belong, or you came to a place where you don't belong? Or is it the fact that you are getting a warning from the living God and immigrants about your evil and your participation in evil and your seemingly privileged lifestyle at the expense of what we know is the downtrodden, who still is the constitutional citizens that they don't want.
Okay, let me cut this bullshit off here. First of all, bitch, you're doing a disservice to the history of slavery right now, or what you're talking about. Because I've seen people comment on your videos. Again, these are the ignorant responses. People talking about, oh, here we go again, another black person crying about slavery. Let me just address this quickly, because I want to really get onto Mary Omni, really, but let me just address this quickly. People who are responding with that's also an ignorant response, because I've seen people talk about, oh, slavery ended in 18. And that's another stupid thing about this constitutional contract he's talking about land. Okay, let me reiterate. It's important to know history before you start talking shit, okay? So, slavery ended in 1846. I saw somebody write down. And people have, that's another thing. People love to throw out different dates, whatever. Slavery ended a long time ago, 400 years or whatever. People. Slavery didn't end. Slavery rebranded itself. The industrial complex, prison. Oh no, look at you play the race card. Let me break it down really quickly. You go into prisons now, they're taking away, you can't do your school no more, they're putting you into work for free. And obviously this isn't just affecting black people, but there's a high percentage of black people in jail. I'm not going to go into all that, those facts and figures, whatever. But let's break it down to the how it started to be what it is now. Okay? So they said, yeah. First of all, let's get rid of this illusion that slavery ended because some proud Europeans said, oh, this is so bad, we should let these people go free. No, bullshit. That's what they tell us in school. That's not really what it was. The slaves started to think to themselves, hold on, what the fuck? Why are we doing this? There's more of us in this farm than the owners. Let's kill these motherfuckers. And it started happening. Uprisings started happening. Slave owners started getting killed in the night. And then with their families and whatever. And they realized this shit isn't worth it. Let's let these niggers go. Let the niggers go. I mean, that's a really simplistic and shortened version of what happened. But you get the point. So, when these slaves were set free, where were they living? They were thrown in the street. This contractual land that she's talking about, which I don't know whether it's true or not, but let's just, for argument's sake, say this contractual land she speaks of was true, that blacks had land given to them. They didn't have houses. So, and now you're talking about Bosnians coming to steal the land. What? Anyway, that's jumping back into my original point. Just to finish off this point, so slaves didn't have land. So, and being a vagabond became illegal. Being a homeless vagabond was illegal. So, who do you think was mostly getting thrown in jail? The homeless people. And what was the highest percentage of homeless people? Black people. Why? Because they were thrown out of their slave masters' houses. Now you see how that snowballs, and it snowballs throughout time to what it is now. You go do the research. So anybody who come in with ignorant responses to her on that level, stop that shit. Back to Mary Omni. Mary Omni. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. So, Bosnians came to dream an American dream. What the fuck are you talking about? You have no... I'm going to repeat myself. It's important to know history. Yugoslavia was one of the most prospering nations. What is this absurd idea that a lot of Americans have in general, that there was nothing great before the United States of America? Fucking moron. Like I was saying, Yugoslavia was one of the most prosperous nations at its height, at its era, before the breakup and all of that, right? At Tito's time, right? Go Google that shit, because I know you don't really sit in libraries and read books. You can barely speak English and write English. I've seen them comments, your grammar's awful, bitch. So just Google this. You'll find loads of videos online. Google Tito, you fucking moronic individual, okay? And you'll see that there was no reason for Bosnians, Serbs, Croats, anyone that you would probably see as an invader to run to America, other than the fact that, oh shit, our country's breaking up and there's war going on, and okay, that looks like a nice place to go to. They fucked us up anyway. See where I'm going with this? You probably don't, because you're dumb. But anyway. So, she goes on to say that fuck, let me play what she said. Let me play what she said.
Sealed and delivered as
Calling this lunatic a radical black activist only hams up this narrative of blacks versus Bosnians, right? Stop it. Stop it. This woman's a psychopath. She's nuts. Mary Omni, go get some help. You sick individual. That's all I got left to say, man. Vidimo se. Ciao.